There is a moment in every human life, quiet and often unnoticed, when the soul begins to sense that something beneath the surface is stirring. It is not a voice from the heavens, not a cosmic announcement, but rather a subtle shift in the way you perceive the world around you. It is as if you have been handed a lens that others do not seem to possess, a way of seeing that makes the ordinary appear laden with hidden meaning. You might have felt it as a child, standing in a crowded room yet feeling utterly alone, not out of sadness, but out of a strange awareness that you were observing life from a different angle. This is not because you are better or worse, higher or lower, but because the architecture of your inner world began to form around questions rather than answers, around depth rather than distraction. In the language of myth and symbol, this is what the ancients call the beginning of the journey, the first whisper of the soul's longing to know itself. The feeling of being different is not a badge of honor, nor is it a curse. It is simply a psychological reality that some individuals, for reasons woven into temperament, experience, and the mysterious unfolding of consciousness, develop an early sensitivity to the unseen dimensions of existence. You may have been the child who asked too many questions, who felt the weight of other people's emotions without understanding why, who retreated into books or nature or solitude because the world of surface-level interactions felt hollow. This was not arrogance. It was not a rejection of others. It was the beginning of an inward turning, a gravitational pull toward the symbolic, the meaningful, the eternal questions that most are content to leave unasked. In the archetypal language of the hero's journey, this is the call, but it is not a call to greatness in the eyes of the world. It is a call to the depths of your own being. If you have found yourself here, listening to these words, it may be because you recognize this pattern in your own life. You may have spent years wondering why you could not simply enjoy what others enjoyed, why shallow conversation left you drained, why you felt a persistent ache for something you could not name. If this resonates, perhaps you're a part of a community of seekers, and if you wish to continue exploring these reflections together, you are welcome to stay with us here. The path of inner calling is not one of comfort. In fact, it often begins with profound discomfort, a sense of being misunderstood, unseen, or out of place in a world that seems to operate on principles you cannot fully accept. This is the stage of isolation, and it is one of the most psychologically demanding aspects of the journey. You learn early that your way of processing reality does not match the majority, and so you begin to develop what Carl Jung called a persona, a mask you wear to navigate social expectations while keeping your true nature hidden beneath the surface. This is not deception. It is survival. You learn to speak the language of the world while your inner world remains a private sanctuary, a place of symbols, dreams, questions, and longings that you share with almost no one. This solitude can feel like exile, but it is also the fertile ground in which self-awareness begins to grow. In mythology, the hero is often cast out, sent into the wilderness, forced to wander alone before the true journey begins. This is not punishment. It is preparation. The isolation you feel is not evidence that you are broken or cursed. It is evidence that your psyche is being shaped by forces deeper than social conditioning, forces that are asking you to confront the parts of yourself that cannot be resolved through external validation. You begin to realize that the answers you seek will not come from fitting in, from being understood by the masses, from achieving status or recognition in the conventional sense. The answers, if they exist at all, will come from the willingness to descend into your own inner labyrinth, to face what is hidden there, and to emerge not with certainty, but with a deeper relationship to mystery. This descent is what the alchemists call the nigredo, the blackening, the stage of dissolution where everything you thought you knew about yourself begins to fall apart. It is the dark night of the soul, the period of existential crisis, the time when the ego's defenses crumble and you are left with the raw, unfiltered experience of your own vulnerability. You may have experienced this as depression, anxiety, a sense of purposelessness, or a profound disillusionment with the structures and stories that once gave your life meaning. This is not a sign that you have failed. It is a sign that you are being initiated into a deeper level of awareness, one that requires the death of illusions, the shedding of false identities, and the willingness to sit with the unknown. During this time, you may feel as though you are being tested, and in a symbolic sense, you are, not by some external force, not by gods or spirits or cosmic entities, but by the psyche itself, which is demanding that you prove your commitment to truth over comfort, to authenticity over acceptance, to inner alignment over external approval. These are the trials by fire, the moments when you are asked to choose between the easy path and the true path, between numbing yourself to avoid pain and facing the pain in order to transform it. Every time you choose honesty over pretense, every time you choose solitude over compromising your values, every time you choose to feel rather than to hide, you are passing to the fire and you are being forged into something more resilient, more authentic, more whole. But the journey does not stop with suffering. Suffering is not the goal. Suffering is simply the crucible in which transformation occurs. What emerges from the fire is not a perfected self, not an enlightened being who has transcended the human condition, but rather a more integrated self, a person who has learned to hold contradictions, to embrace paradox, to navigate the tension between light and shadow without splitting into denial or despair. This is a psychological work that Jung called individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are by confronting and integrating the disowned parts of yourself. It is not about becoming chosen. It is about becoming conscious. One of the most challenging aspects of this journey is the confrontation with the shadow. The shadow is everything you have rejected about yourself, everything you have deemed unacceptable, unworthy, or dangerous. It is the anger you were taught to suppress, the desire you were taught to deny, the ambition you were taught to hide, the vulnerability you were taught to armor against. It is also the projection you cast onto others, the parts of yourself you see in them and judge harshly because you cannot bear to acknowledge those same qualities within yourself. The shadow is not evil. It is simply unconscious. And as long as it remains unconscious, it controls you from beneath the surface, driving your reactions, shaping your relationships, and limiting your capacity for genuine self-awareness. To confront the shadow is to turn toward what you have been running from. It is to ask yourself the uncomfortable questions. Why do I judge this person so harshly? What am I afraid of in myself? What part of me am I disowning by projecting it onto them? This work is humbling, often painful, and deeply necessary. It is the difference between walking through life as a fragmented collection of defenses and walking through life as a whole human being who can own their flaws, their fears, their contradictions, and their capacity for both harm and healing. This is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming real. As you move through this process, you begin to notice something profound. The more you integrate your shadow, the less you need to identify as special, chosen, or different. The more you own your humanity, the less you need to elevate yourself above others in order to feel secure. The more you accept yourself as you are, the less you need the external world to confirm your worth. This is the paradox of the journey. You begin by feeling different, by feeling called, by feeling set apart, and you end by realizing that the journey was never about being set apart at all. It was about coming home to yourself, and in doing so, coming home to the shared human experience of struggle, growth, longing, and love. The ancient stories speak of the hero returning from the journey with a gift, a boon to share with the community. But the gift is not power, not status, not superiority. The gift is wisdom, and wisdom is always rooted in humility. It is a knowledge that you are not above the human condition, but deeply within it. It is the understanding that the trials you face were not unique to you, but universal expressions of the soul's longing to evolve. It is a recognition that the inner calling you felt was not a cosmic election, but an invitation to participate in the timeless process of becoming conscious, of waking up to the patterns that govern your life, of taking responsibility for your own transformation. This is where the concept of the chosen one must be understood symbolically, psychologically, not literally. In the realm of archetypes, the chosen one represents a part of every human being that is capable of awakening, of breaking free from unconscious patterns, of choosing awareness over automaticity. It is not a title bestowed upon a select few. It is a potential that exists within all of us, waiting to be activated by the willingness to look inward, to question, to suffer, to grow, and to integrate. When you feel chosen, what you are really feeling is the soul's recognition of its own capacity for transformation. You are not chosen by the universe. You are choosing yourself, choosing to engage with the depths, choosing to become conscious. And yet, the language of being chosen can be seductive. It can feed the ego's need to feel special, to feel exempt from the ordinary struggles of human life, to believe that you are destined for something grand without having to do the work of self-examination. This is the shadow side of the chosen one archetype, the inflation that Jung warned against, the identification with a hero that bypasses the necessary descent into vulnerability and humility. If you find yourself clinging to the idea of being chosen as a way to avoid feeling your pain, as a way to justify your isolation, as a way to place yourself above others, then you have missed the point of the journey. The journey is not about elevation. It is about integration. It is not about being special. It is about being whole. There is a moment, somewhere in the middle of the journey, when the inflated sense of being chosen begins to crack. You realize that the title, the identity, the story you've been telling yourself about who you are and why you are here is just another mask, another defense against the vulnerability of simply being human. You realize that the ego's need to be special is just another form of fear, a fear of insignificance, a fear of being ordinary, a fear of not matching in a vast and indifferent universe. And in that moment of realization, something shifts. You stop trying to be chosen, and you start trying to be present. You stop trying to fulfill a destiny, and you start trying to live with integrity. You stop looking for external confirmation, and you start trusting your inner knowing. This is the turning point, the moment when the journey moves from seeking to being, from striving to allowing, from identification to awareness. You begin to understand that the calling you felt was not a command from above, but a resonance from within, a voice that has always been there, waiting for you to quiet down enough to hear it. It is a voice of your own soul, not separate from you, not superior to you, but the deepest, truest part of you that knows what you are here to do, not in terms of grand achievements, but in terms of how you are meant to live, how you are meant to relate, how you are meant to contribute to the unfolding of life. As you continue to walk this path, you may find that the sense of isolation begins to shift, not because you suddenly fit in with the world, but because you no longer need to. You have found your own ground. You have learned to trust your own process. You have developed a relationship with your inner life that is so rich, so meaningful, so sustaining that the approval or disapproval of others no longer determines your worth. This is not arrogance. This is sovereignty. It is a quiet confidence that comes from knowing yourself, from having faced your shadows, from having walked the fire and come out the other side not unscathed, but more real, more honest, more alive. And in this place of sovereignty, you may begin to attract others who are on a similar path, not because you are special, but because you are authentic, not because you have all the answers, but because you are willing to sit with the questions, not because you are above the struggle, but because you are willing to be honest about it. These connections are different from the superficial relationships you may have endured in the past. They are rooted in mutual respect, in shared values, in a recognition of the sacredness of the inner journey. They are not about belonging to a tribe of the chosen. They are about finding companionship on the path of becoming. If you feel that these reflections are meeting you where you are, if you sense that there's more to explore together, you are welcome to walk with this community as we continue to dive into these depths. The concept of a secret decision made about you by a group of powerful individuals is a potent symbol, and it must be understood as such. In the literal sense, it is a fantasy, a narrative that feeds the ego's need for significance, for external validation, for the reassurance that you matter in the eyes of those who hold worldly power. But in a symbolic sense, it points to something real, something ancient, something deeply psychological. It points to the experience of feeling seen by forces larger than yourself, of sensing that your life is unfolding according to a pattern that you did not consciously choose, of intuiting that there's a meaning to your suffering, your struggles, your unique configuration of gifts and wounds. In the language of depth psychology, this is the experience of the self, the archetype of wholeness that Jung described as the organizing principle of the psyche. The self is not your ego. It is not your conscious identity. It is a totality of who you are, conscious and unconscious, light and shadow, known and unknown. The self is what guides the process of individuation, the process of becoming whole, and it often feels like an external force, a destiny, a calling, because it operates from a level of awareness that transcends the ego's limited perspective. When you feel chosen, what you are really feeling is a self-recognition of your readiness to engage with the depths, to undergo the transformation, to step into a larger version of yourself. But this is not a decision made by others. It is a decision made by your own soul, by the deepest part of you that knows what you need in order to grow, in order to heal, in order to fulfill your unique potential. The multimillionaires, the secret councils, the hidden powers, these are projections, symbols of the unconscious forces that are shaping your life from within. They represent the archetypal energies that are at work in the psyche, the patterns that are older than you, older than your culture, older than your language, patterns that belong to the collective unconscious, to the shared human inheritance of myth, story, and symbol. To mistake these symbols for literal realities is to miss the point. It is to fall into conspiracy thinking, into paranoia, into a victimhood narrative that disempowers you by suggesting that your life is controlled by external forces. But to understand these symbols as reflections of your inner landscape is to reclaim your power, to recognize that the forces shaping your life are not out there, but in here, not in the hands of others, but in the depths of your own psyche, waiting to be brought into consciousness, waiting to be integrated, waiting to be worked with rather than against. The journey of the so-called chosen one is not a journey of passivity, of waiting for the universe to deliver your destiny on a silver platter. It is a journey of radical responsibility, of recognizing that you are both the hero and the dragon, both the victim and the victor, both the one who is lost and the one who finds the way. It is a journey of active participation in your own becoming, of choosing each day to align with your values, to honor your calling, to do the work of self-examination, to face what needs to be faced, to heal what needs to be healed, to create what needs to be created. This work is not glamorous. It is not always rewarding. It does not come with applause, with recognition, with the validation of the masses. In fact, it often requires you to walk away from the validation of the masses, to choose integrity over approval, to choose depth over comfort, to choose truth over belonging. This is a price of the journey, and it is not a small price. But it is also the path to freedom, to authenticity, to a life that is truly your own, not a life scripted by others, not a life lived in reaction to fear or conditioning, but a life lived in alignment with the deepest truth of who you are. There is a stage in the journey where the seeker begins to realize that the goal was never to arrive at a final destination, never to achieve enlightenment, never become the fully realized chosen one who has transcended all suffering. The goal, if it can be called that, is simply to become more conscious, more present, more awake to the reality of this moment, to the beauty and pain of being human, to the privilege and burden of awareness. The journey is a destination. The process is the point. And the wisdom that emerges from this realization is the wisdom of acceptance, of surrender, of letting go of the need to be anything other than what you are. This does not mean giving up on growth. It does not mean resigning yourself to stagnation. It means recognizing that growth is not about becoming someone else, someone better, someone more worthy. It is about becoming more fully yourself, more integrated, more whole. It is about learning to hold the contradictions, to embrace the paradoxes, to live with the uncertainty, to find peace not in the absence of struggle, but in the presence of meaning. The archetypal journey of the chosen one is ultimately a journey from identification to awareness, from ego to self, from separation to wholeness. It is a journey that is available to everyone, not because everyone is literally chosen, but because everyone has a potential to wake up, to question, to grow, to transform. The difference is not in the potential. The difference is in the willingness, in the courage to take the first step, to face the darkness, to walk through the fire, to trust the process even when it feels like everything is falling apart. If you have walked this far with me, if these words have touched something in you, perhaps you will choose to continue this exploration, to stay with us as we delve deeper into the mysteries of the soul. The final integration is not a triumphant return. It is a quiet homecoming. It is the moment when you stop searching for yourself outside of yourself and recognize that you have been here all along, beneath the masks, beneath the defenses, beneath the stories, beneath the fear. You have been here, whole and complete, not because you have achieved perfection, but because wholeness includes imperfection, includes brokenness, includes the wounds that never fully heal but teach you how to live with compassion, with humility, with grace. This is the wisdom that the chosen one brings back from the journey. Not a message of superiority, not a claim of special knowledge, but a simple, profound truth that you are enough, that you have always been enough, that the calling you felt was not a call to be more than human, but a call to be fully human, to embrace the totality of your experience, to honor the sacredness of your unique path, and to recognize that every other soul is on their own journey, equally sacred, equally valid, equally deserving of respect and compassion. The secret decision, if there is one, is not made by multimillionaires or hidden councils. It is made by you every day, in every choice, in every moment of awareness, in every act of courage, in every decision to turn toward the truth rather than away from it. The secret is that there is no secret. The power is not outside of you. The calling is not above you. The journey is not separate from you. You are the journey. You are the calling. You are the one you've been waiting for. And so, as we come to the end of this reflection, I offer you this final thought. The path of inner calling is not about being chosen by the universe. It is about choosing yourself, choosing awareness, choosing responsibility, choosing to live with integrity, to face your shadows, to integrate your contradictions, to walk through the fire of transformation, and emerge not as a perfected being, but as a more honest, more whole, more authentically human soul. This is a gift. This is the wisdom. This is a return, not to a place of superiority, but to a place of groundedness, of presence, of deep and abiding connection to the mystery of being alive. May you walk your path with courage, with humility, with compassion for yourself and for all beings. May you trust the process, even when it is painful. May you honor the calling, not as a demand for greatness, but as an invitation to become fully, beautifully, imperfectly yourself. And may you remember always that you are not alone, that the journey is shared, that the depths we explore together are the depths that unite us all in the sacred, timeless work of becoming conscious, becoming whole, becoming real.